And welcome back to the Y.E.S Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. Thanks for coming on board today on this cold Tuesday in Burlington, Connecticut. Might get a little ugly out there tonight, but it is turning cold and we can feel it. Got my jacket on up front here today because I'm right near the front door and I'm going to get freezing when someone walks through this door. So we got a little bit of housekeeping today. We are about halfway through our metabolism makeover, and everyone continues to go in the right direction of losing fat and gaining muscle. Some have slowed down a little bit, but each person has been able to make some change. And we've also got our Thanksgiving schedule up. We are closed Thanksgiving Day and the day after. Yes, we are slackers. We take off Thanksgiving and Black Friday, not because we need to go shopping, but we have just found over the years that our clients like to spend time with their families. They do a lot of traveling. We are open Saturday for all our normally scheduled sessions, so we'll be open that Saturday. I can let you in on a little bit of a secret. We will be running, it's not a secret actually, we're going to be running our Burn the Bird workout on, I believe, it starts at 7:30 on Thanksgiving morning. It is a partner workout. Non-members are welcome to come join us. We just need to know ahead of time. That would be, whatever that Monday's date is, the 27th, on the 25th. We need to close off the class on the 25th. I need time to plan for that specific event. It's a lot of fun. We burn some calories, get the metabolism revved up for all those goodies we're going to eat later in the day. And that is our topic of discussion today. 2 weeks ago, we talked about calorie counting and calorie in. And today, we're going to talk about calories going back out. So just to review quickly, why it is a mistake to think that you can count the amount of calories you put into your body. That mistake can be up to a 25% mistake, 25% off the amount of calories you think you put in your body. Reason number one, calorie counts themselves are imprecise. The way to determine how many calories an item is very imprecise. Reason number two, we don't all absorb calories the same way. I'm going to absorb calories different, then you're going to absorb calories and different than the next person. So the amount of calories you absorb are different. How you prepare your foods will change the caloric load, or how many calories that is in that item, so how we prepare those foods. Each individual we don't absorb, not only do absorb differently, uniquely, invariably, but we don't absorb all the calories that we consume. So we might consume 300 calories, we aren't going to absorb all 300 calories. And finally, people who just really aren't great at eyeballing portion sizes. So you may go through all the trouble of weighing your foods and all that, but there's 4 of the reasons why those calories that you think are in that weighed food is not true. So we like to do some calorie counting so that we get an idea of what something might be worth, but to just rely on that as the main way to figure out how many calories are coming in your body is a completely imperfect science. So if you want to learn more about that or hear more about that, we did that 2 weeks ago, I believe. 2 weeks ago, we did that podcast. You can just go on our podcast page and check it out. If you can't find it, let us know and we'll get that broadcast to you. So today, we're going to talk about not calories in, but calories going out. So most people, when they do this type of idea that they're going to manage their weight or try to lose some weight by counting calories, and they start to think about the amount of calories that they're burning, that also is a very inexact science. And we're going to use the same information, the same premises that we used from the calories in, which is based upon precision nutrition. We follow their nutrition guidelines, and we're going to take it right off of some of the information that they put out there. And it's all good information. Precision nutrition is one of the top nutrition organizations in the world. So what they say, you kind of have a good idea it's correct. So the first thing, we have four things why calories out is imperfect science, is the calories burned, the estimated calories that are burned is also imprecise, okay? So the calorie figures, the expenditure you might see in a magazine or online or online calculators or fitness trackers, they're based on laboratory averages with large margins of error, So the first way that calories are determined, the amount of calories that you burn when you're doing some type of activity, would be through direct calorimetry, okay? And that has a margin of error of 3.3%. So how will we do that? Well, scientists use a hermetically sealed environment, a chamber, to measure the energy or the calories burned. It is the most expensive method and is extremely unused. We don't use that method at all. It's rarely used because it is so expensive to do. And we got to put you in a big chamber and get you on a machine to see how many calories you're going to burn through different activities. So that isn't something that's very reliable. It's 3.3% off at times, and it's just not very practical to do. So the second imprecise method is what they call doubly labeled water method, okay? And that has a margin of error of 10.2%. So if it says 300 calories, it could be 270, it could be 330 as a simple example. So what happens is people drink water containing medical isotopes, which then the scientists will measure your bodily fluids over time to estimate the average daily metabolic rate. Again, it's not very accurate at all. Plus, who's got scientists following around all day long? So that, again, is not a very accurate way and a not very practical way. And then finally would be indirect calorimetry, and that has a margin of error of up to 45% wrong. So you may have seen pictures where people are up on a treadmill with a mask on their face. What they're doing is they're measuring a gas exchange, and they use that exchange to estimate the energy expenditure. This method is basically behind 99% of the calorie burn estimates that you see. But it has a margin of error of 45%. So 99% of the calories out there, where people figure out, say, this is how many calories I burn, this is my caloric expenditure, that is up to 45% margin error. So like the consumer fitness trackers, they're off by about 30% for daily total calorie expenditure. And like for aerobic exercises, those devices can show error between 9 and 23%. So what would that look like? I wrote down some numbers for us here, okay? If you had a 350 calorie workout, so you go out there and you do a 300 calorie workout, that's what it says on your little fitness device. If you were to use a body media fit device, okay? It might say that it's 350 calories, but the error is 9/9%. You might have only burned 317 calories, or you may have burned up to 382 calories. Another one that's very popular out there is the Fitbit Zip. Fitbit Zip has a 10% error. So if you do a 350 calorie workout, allegedly on the Fitbit Zip, that could be as little as 314 calories or as much as 385 calories. Fitbit One, also not very accurate. It's 10.4% error, more than the previous Fitbit. 350 calorie workout could be as little as 313 calories to 386 calories. You can see the error that's involved in these devices. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use this device. It helps a lot with accountability, but you just can't rely on those numbers. So, for example, Nike has a fuel band, okay? The Nike fuel band has a margin of error of 13%. 13%. So what would that mean in a 350 calorie workout? You may have only burned 304 calories, or you may burn 300. My calculation is wrong here because it's got to be much more than 356 calories. But you can see that there's a big error there. And then finally, the basis B1 band has a 23.5% error. So if you do a 350 calorie workout, you may have only burned 268 calories, or you might burn as much as 432 calories. So these devices have at least a 10% error. So when you look at that on your watch, and you say, oh, I burned all these calories, there's going to be at least a 10% error. So how accurate can we be if we already know that we're not counting the amount of calories that we take in correctly? Now the amount of calories that we burn is not correct. It's such an imperfect science. So reason number 2, okay? Individuals burn calories uniquely and variably, just like we absorb calories differently, depending on how the foods we take in are different. The way we burn calories, or the amount of calories we burn, is different, okay? So number 1 thing could be just from our genes, okay? Just a single variation in what's called the FTO gene. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, okay? It's way out there for me. But the FTO gene can cause you to burn 160 fewer calories per day. So if there's one little variation in the FTO gene, you are burning 160 calories fewer per day than what you thought you were. Might not sound like a lot, but if you start to add that up, that's 1 pound in 22 days. If 3,500 calories equals a pound. So 22 days, it's off by a pound already. A lot of days in the year, 365. So another factor is our epigenetics. So external factors affect how genes are expressed, okay? So here's an example. I know this is a mice, it's not a human being, but in mice, when a mother eats more of a specific nutrient during pregnancy, her offspring will burn 5% more calories per day than the others. And we've seen this in human studies indicate the same thing. So our epigenetics will affect the amount of calories that we burn. Brown fat. You probably didn't realize that there were different colors of fat. So brown fat. So in cold environments, people with brown fat tissues that contain more mitochondria. Mitochondria are like the power of our cells. You can burn up to 400 calories more per day. A reason why you'd want to have more fat maybe, huh? Probably not, but brown fat makes a difference. So diet is also a factor, okay? In a study, people ate capsaicin, burned 120 more calories per day via brown fat activation. So they ate that, they had brown fat, they burned 120 more calories per day. 120 calories going to add up over time. If you have a lot more brown fat, you might even burn 400 calories more per day. So something that you probably have absolutely no idea how much brown fat you have on your body could make a difference on how many calories you burn. Sleep. We always talk about sleep. It's neglected, especially in the Northeast. But sleep deprivation for a single night may decrease the amount of calories burned by 5 to 20% for that day. 5 to 20%, depending upon just one night of sleep deprivation. And of course, for you females out there, I apologize, but the woman's menstrual cycle affects her resting metabolic rate, the amount of calories they burn, the amount of calories they need to maintain their weight. So depending on where you're at phase, it can vary by as much as 150 calories, which is a lot of calories per day. So overall, it's not unusual for an individual's metabolism rate to vary by 100 calories per day. So in this portion, number 2, there's an error up to 20%. So the first thing we talked about, the devices and how calories, we look like devices, we think we're burning calories, how many calories we're burning. It's 10%, and now we're at another 20% based upon other factors. The third factor, what and how much you eat influences how many calories you'll burn. Yep, what and how much you eat. So for example, in response to overeating, metabolisms increase, okay? However, some people's metabolism will adapt differently than others. So they did some studies where they had a bunch of people for 8 weeks. They ate 1,000 calories more than they needed per day. Some people over those 8 weeks only gained 0.79 pounds, so 3/4 of a pound, whereas some other people gained as much as 9.3 pounds. So there's a huge difference there, and they ate more. Some people ate more and they didn't even gain. They gained 3/4 of a pound. Some people ate more and they gained 9 pounds. But the amount of calories more that they took in, okay, if they had not had an adaptive metabolism, each person would have gained 16 pounds. That's the increase in calories we had over those 8 weeks. So you can see that the metabolism will adapt to the amount of calories you take in, thus changing the amount of calories that you burn. So another very important thing about the foods that we eat is you'll burn more energy digesting some macronutrients other than others. So when you take, for instance, in protein, it takes 20 to 30% of the calories of that protein you take in to digest it. When you eat a carbohydrate, it only takes 5 to 10% of the calories you take in to digest it. And when you eat fats, it's only 0 to 3% of the calories that you take in are needed to digest those foods. Because when you eat, it's called the thermal energy effect. You need to burn calories to digest those foods. So proteins use a lot more energy to digest than carbohydrates, and really a lot more than fat. So that error, when you're trying to figure it out, can be up to 20%. So another big, huge difference in the amount of calories you think that you're burning, but you're not. And then finally, number 4, your weight history influences how many calories you'll burn. The history of your weight will make a difference on how many calories you burn. So here's a little bit of an example, okay? So if you've ever been overweight and you're obese, your metabolism, your metabolic rate may be lower than the equations predict due to something that's called adapted thermogenesis. So if you've been really overweight, your metabolic rate may have been lowered. And then those equations that tell you, or the devices that tell you how many calories you burned, could be off because of that. So if we were to consider a 40-year-old man who weighs 200 pounds, an equation predicts that it's required for his body to maintain his weight 2,759 calories per day. So just to maintain his weight, 200-calorie man, 40 years old, 2,759 calories to maintain that weight. So he says, you know what, I need to lose some weight, so I'm going to start eating less to lose weight. Not unusual, right? Over time, he loses 20 pounds. Woohoo, that's 10% of his previous body weight. That's fantastic, 10 pounds. But since he has a smaller body, his smaller body needs fewer calories to live. So now his total calorie output goes down. He's going to burn fewer calories now that he's 20 pounds less. But because this man has been living on a calorie deficit for so long and lost significant weight, his brain starts to think he's in danger of starving to death. So because he's on this calorie deficit, we tell you don't stay on a calorie deficit too long because your body will catch up with that. His fat cells will now begin to release leptin, a hormone that influences hunger and activity cues. So now his brain is telling his body to release this leptin, a hormone that's going to influence your hunger. This sends the body into a calorie conservation mode. It's going to cause this man to subsequently move less, which is a drop in non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or what we call NEAT. And he's going to make his muscles more efficient. So when he does move, he burns fewer calories when he's exercising. That's what that calorie deficit will do over time. It'll make the body burn fewer calories. And this is the adaptive thermogenesis. Research shows that research shows that man may always require up to 300 fewer calories per day than equations predict to maintain his weight. So up to 300 calories. So the equation may say that, hey, you know what? He needs 2,600 calories to maintain his weight. is 180 pounds, when actually he only needs 2,300 calories to maintain his weight. You can't figure that out. There's no way to figure that out. There's no way to figure out the adaptive thermogenesis of the body. So in that example I just gave you, that could be an error of up to 10%. So we're going to pull all this together now, okay? Number one, calorie burn estimators are imprecise. The way they figure out how many calories you burn are imprecise, okay? Individuals burn calories uniquely and variably. Can't figure it out. What and how much you eat influences the calories you'll burn. So the foods that you eat and how much you eat influences how many calories are burned. So when you take that food in, you think, hey, you know what, that's 1,000 calories. We don't really have any idea how much you're going to actually burn. And your weight history, how much you weigh, how much you may previously weigh, may influence the amount of calories you'll burn in the future. So counting, we already know counting calories in is imperfection. Counting calories out, we now know and understand. That is very unreliable. It's not an efficient way to try to manage weight. You can have a total error of up to 20%, pardon me, total error of 25% in calories expenditure, calories burned out. So there you have it. We understand why and explain why calorie counting is not a reliable way to manage weight. It can be a good way to be educated on how many calories an item might be. So some people might not realize that a slice of cheese is 100 calories, so they put 2 slices of cheese on their sandwich. Now there's 200 calories. If that slice of cheese is actually 100 calories, and if we're going to digest it and all that kind of stuff, but it can help you understand foods that are more caloric dense than foods that aren't. But it's really a very inaccurate way to try to manage your weight and for weight management. So there you have it. You can stop by next Tuesday, where we're going to give you more insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. I appreciate you taking the time to watch me today, and I hope you watch again soon. Have a great night. Thanks.